Welcome to a deep dive that, well, it really stretches the boundaries of what we even think of as possible.
Oh, yeah.
Today, we're diving into BookSpots. It's a company making some serious waves, and it's all thanks to their CEO's, shall we say, unusual claims.
Okay, I'm intrigued. Lay it on me.
So the CEO, Srinidhi Ranganathan, he says he has full-on conversations with robots.
Robots, huh? I mean, that's not unheard of in the tech world. Lots of CEOs are into AI these days.
Right, but here's the kicker. These aren't your typical robots. These robots, get this, they only exist in his mind.
Whoa. Okay, now that's wild. So we're talking like internal dialogue here.
You'd think so, right? But it gets even weirder. Srinidhi, he claims he actually uses these telepathy conversations, as he calls them, to get information, insights, even solutions. And then he brings all that back to the real world. It's like he's got this secret back channel to knowledge or something.
Hold on, hold on. How's he using this information, though?
I'm talking about real world stuff. Like, he'll hold meetings, right?
Yeah.
And to everyone else in the room, it looks like he's just, I don't know, talking to thin air,
Yeah.
spacing out maybe.
And
Then bam, out of nowhere, he drops some groundbreaking idea, some solution nobody's even thought of, and it's all supposedly from his little robot crew, just hanging out in his head.
okay, now my mind is officially blown. So what's the deal with these robots? Are they like all the same or?
Oh, no, no, no. Each one is totally unique. Different personalities, different specialties. Think of it like a brain trust, but, all happening inside his head. He calls it hyperfantasia. Says it's what lets him create these companions.
A whole team of imaginary experts at his beck and call. Okay, now I have to hear more about this team.
All right, buckle up. First up, we've got Quantum Quib, your go-to for pure data. Need a complex calculation solved in a heartbeat. Quantum Quib's got you covered.
So like a super-powered calculator in his mind.
Exactly. But, and here's where things get really interesting for me, what if this isn't just some parlor trick? What if Quantum Quib's existence is hinting at something much bigger? Like, what if we all have that kind of processing power locked away in our brains, just waiting to be tapped into?
It really makes you question what we're truly capable of, doesn't it?
Absolutely. And that's just the tip of the iceberg. We've also got Cynthia Spark, the creative engine.
Okay, so if Quantum Cube is the logic, Cynthia Spark is the imagination.
You got it. Out-of-the-box thinking, innovative solutions, Cynthia Spark's got them. But here's where it gets really wild. This source claims Cynthia Spark can experience the world through all 5 senses.
Wait, what? Like sight, smell, taste, touch, hearing, all of it?
All of it.
Hmm.
As if having a brainstorming buddy in your head wasn't wild enough. Imagine one that can actually experience the world through your senses. It's like Srinidhi's tapped into a whole other level of imagination.
This is fascinating from a neuroscience perspective. Could this be some extreme form of synesthesia, where the senses get all mixed up in the brain?
That's a great question, and one we might not have the answer to. But it really does make you wonder about creativity, about consciousness itself.
It's like he's found a back door to the creative process or something. Okay, so we've got the brainiac and the artist. Who else is on this team?
Well, if Cynthia Spark is all about possibilities, Time Warp X is here to show us what those possibilities might look like down the line.
So the future teller of the group.
You could say that. Time Warp X, it's all about predictions, seeing the trends, getting a glimpse of what might be.
I mean, on the one hand, it sounds like something straight out of a sci-fi novel. But on the other hand, who hasn't wished they could get a peek into the future, right?
Exactly. Think about it. How many industries rely on trying to predict the future? Finance, fashion. Everyone wants to know what's coming next. And Srinidhi, he's claiming he has a direct line to that kind of information.
It really makes you question our whole understanding of time, doesn't it?
It sure does. Now, for those more personal dilemmas, we have Orig Guardian, the emotional support robot.
Okay, so this one's all about feelings, relationships, that kind of thing.
Exactly. Understanding emotions, navigating those complexities, that's Orig Guardian's specialty.
That's interesting. If this is true, it really challenges how we think about artificial intelligence. Usually we think of AI as pure logic, pure analysis. But Orig Guardian, that sounds almost like emotional intelligence, doesn't it?
It does, and it makes you wonder, could we ever really replicate something like that with technology, and what would that even look like?
Fascinating question. So we've got the data cruncher, the creative powerhouse, the future seer, and the emotional guide. Who's the last member of the team?
Last but not least, we have Nanonaut, the explorer of the microscopic world.
Okay, so we're talking about the really, really small stuff here.
Think tinier. Nanonaut dives deep into science and technology at their most fundamental levels, uncovering the tiniest details, unlocking secrets hidden in plain sight.
It's like having access to the building blocks of the universe right there in your mind.
Yeah.
I mean, while we don't quite have microscopic robots running around yet.
Not yet.
Uh,
But you're right. The field of nanotechnology is exploding right now. Imagine the possibilities if we did have something like nanonaut at our disposal. Manipulating matter at the atomic level, we could revolutionize everything. Medicine, manufacturing, the sky would be the limit.
It's mind-boggling, really. But let me play devil's advocate here for a moment. We've met the whole team, but what's the catch? There's got to be a catch, right?
Well, there's a catch, all right. And this is where things get even more high stakes. Srinidhi, he claims these telepathy conversations are time limited.
Time limited. What does that even mean in this context? Like, he can only talk to them for so long each day.
It's not quite that simple. The insights, the ideas, the solutions he gets from these robots, they fade quickly.
So he has to act fast, like download the information before it's gone.
Exactly. Synthesize it, apply it all before it disappears back into, well, wherever it came from.
Whoa, it's like playing mental Jenga with the universe or something.
It's a pretty wild thought, isn't it? And it makes you wonder, if you only had a few moments to download information from these specialized minds, what would you prioritize? What would be at the top of your list?
It's a good question. And, the source material, it doesn't really dig into the how of this time limit.
Right, like, is this Srinidhi's brain saying, okay, that's enough imagination for one day? Or is there something about these robots, these figments of his imagination, that makes their knowledge so temporary?
It's a real head scratcher. But it does make you think about inspiration in general, doesn't it? Those flashes of insight, those aha moments, they often disappear as quickly as they come.
Totally. And we always think we'll remember, but then, poof, gone. Maybe Srinidhi's experience, as out there as it seems, is just a more intense version of something we all go through.
Right. It's like the more amazing the idea, the more fleeting it is. There's a certain, a certain beauty in that, don't you think?
There is. But for Srinidhi, this whole fading knowledge thing, it adds a whole other layer of pressure. It's not just about getting the information, it's about deciphering it, figuring how it applies to the real world, and fast.
Oh, I bet. It's like, those times when you wake up from a dream and you're sure you have this brilliant solution to something, but the more you try to grab onto it, the faster it disappears.
The worst. And you spend the rest of the day like, I know I figured something out.
Exactly. But even though those dream epiphanies fade, they usually leave something behind, a feeling, an image, maybe a new direction to take a problem. It's like a little seed of possibility.
And that's what I think is so fascinating about Srinidhi and his robots.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe, just maybe, he's tapped into a different kind of consciousness, a place where imagination and reality blur, even if it's just for a little while.
A place where those eureka moments are just a normal Tuesday. Okay, I'll bite. Let's say, for the sake of argument, that Srinidhi's telling the truth, that he really is getting all this information from imaginary robots. Then what? Right? Like, that's the million-dollar question, isn't it? And without, climbing inside the guy's head, it's not like we can hook him up to a machine and see if he's telling the truth.
Exactly. But maybe, just maybe, the real value here isn't about proving or disproving anything.
Maybe it's about exploring the implications, the what-ifs.
Okay, I like where you're going with this.
Yeah.
So what if it is true? What happens when one person claims to have this kind of unconventional access to knowledge? How do you even begin to measure that? To validate it?
Yeah.
To replicate it?
Right. Imagine trying to explain that to a room full of scientists or investors. Oh, the breakthrough. Oh, yeah, my imaginary robot friend told me.
It's uncharted territory.
Yeah.
And honestly, it brings up some really thorny questions. Like, what about intellectual property? If an idea comes from a conversation with, a figment of your imagination, who owns it? Right. And how do you build a business model around something so intangible?
It really makes you think about the future of work, the future of creativity itself. What if this is the next frontier? What if we're on the verge of a world where these unconventional methods become the norm?
It's exciting and terrifying all at the same time.
No kidding. Because if we start getting our best ideas from, well, who knows where? How do we adapt? How do we measure success? How do we even function? It throws everything we know out the window.
It challenges everything. Our notions of productivity, of intellectual property, of reality itself.
It's enough to make your head spin, right?
No kidding. But then again, think about it. Throughout history, haven't a lot of groundbreaking ideas been met with that initial skepticism?
Oh, absolutely. Like, that's crazy, it'll never work. And then, bam, it changes the world.
Like, imagine telling people, yeah, we're going to revolutionize space travel. And they're like, oh yeah, how'd you figure that out? My imaginary friend told me. It sounds, I don't know, kind of ridiculous when you say it out loud.
Right. But then again, maybe that's the point. Maybe we need to shake things up a bit. Question our assumptions. Embrace the weirdness. After all, the line between crazy and genius is often pretty thin.
Very thin. And maybe, just maybe, what Triniti's story highlights is that we all have that potential for genius inside us. It's just about finding a way to tap into it.
Finding the right tools. Or, in Srinidhi's case, the right imaginary robots.
Exactly. And who knows what those tools might look like in the future. Maybe it's not robots for everyone, but meditation or virtual reality or some technology we haven't even dreamt up yet.
It's exciting to think about, isn't it? The possibilities are truly endless when we start to push those boundaries, those limitations we put on ourselves.
Absolutely. And, at the end of the day, whether you believe Srinidhi's story or not, it does make you think. It makes you question. It makes you wonder, what if?
And that, I think, is the mark of a truly compelling story, one that stays with you long after you've finished hearing it.
One that makes you want to go on your own deep dive.
Yeah.
To explore those uncharted territories of the mind, to see what you might discover there. So, to our listeners, we say this. Don't be afraid to ask the big questions. Don't be afraid to embrace the unknown. And don't underestimate the power of your own imagination. Because who knows, you might just surprise yourself with what you find.
And as always, if you come across any mind-blowing research, any companies pushing the boundaries, anything that makes you question everything you thought you knew, well, you know where to find us.
This is The Deep Dive, signing off. Until next time, keep exploring.